Hello. Hello, my name is Peyton, and I'm so excited to have a soulful self-care conversation.
Sunshine, good to see you again. Had to walk out to let you back in. Stuck in a storm of a relationship. Lost my fire. Oh, and I forgot about me for way too long. But it's rolled on. Now there ain't no shade around here. Once you leave.
Yay! Hey, everybody. And you know me, this is Pearl with Women's Successful Living and our Soulful Self-Care Conversation. And this is a little different podcast than what we normally do because normally the guest comes on and gives this great big introduction about who they are. But I wanted to introduce you to somebody very special to me. Her and her family have held a dear part of my heart for, I think we've known each other for, gosh,
I was in high school,
yeah.
so 2007 was my freshman year,
Yeah.
so probably close to 20
almost
years.
20 years.
Mhm.
Yeah. Our families have been intertwined together.
We
So
could have raised a baby together.
we could have. Lord help us. But we're going to have a fun conversation today. I wanted to introduce Peyton to you, and I want her to share her story because it's very inspiring. I want her to share her journey a little bit with you. But for those of you that are new to this show, my name is Pearl Chiarenza. As I said, I am the host of our Soulful Self-Care Conversations, where we come in and we have those conversations that sometimes touch our soul, touch us deep in our soul, and sometimes help us learn something. And so today is that day. I want you to grab a pen, get your favorite cup of tea. We both do tea, and have that cup of tea. Maybe even have a friend come over. If you're driving, don't worry. Just sit back, listen, because we'll put this out. Everything will be in the show notes, so you can certainly go back and read the notes and see everything and read everything we talked about and any links we might share. But first, I just want to tell you a little bit about Peyton and why I asked her to be on the show today. Like Peyton said, we've known each other almost 20 years. It's just crazy how that's been. And we met on a football field.
Yes.
My son and her brother were playing football, and her dad was the football coach, and you were.
My mom was the team mom, and I was like the team sister.
Yeah, and we were. I think weren't you also coaching the cheerleaders?
I was.
Yeah.
I was.
So it's been a family affair for them in the world of football. We'll talk about that too a little bit, but. Peyton, tell me a little bit about your journey. So you were this cheer coach in high school for the little Pop Warner. It was a little Pop Warner team. I don't say little; the boys are pretty big, but yeah, the Wolf Pack. That's right. We're called the Wolf Pack. And then through the years, things happen. Life goes on. She graduates high school. Her brother graduates high school. My son Matt graduated high school, and both of the boys went off to college for football. And I have this story that I just want to share. I don't know if I ever shared this with you about Sean. I remember your mom sharing the story that he was in middle school, and I can't remember if it was 7th or 8th grade, but the kids had to tell the teachers, what do they want to be when they grow up?
Mhm.
And I remember your mom sharing the story that Sean said he wanted to be an NFL football player. And the teacher, and so those of you that are teachers, listen up, said, you can never do that. You'll never do that. And was trying to sway him from like even doing football in high school and everything. And Sean showed him up. Like Sean went off and was a great player in high school, became a college football player as well.
Mhm.
The NFL wasn't his path to go, but that was his choice. It wasn't like he didn't want to go after that or anything, but that was his choice. So don't let anybody tell you can't do anything, and go after your dream. And I think that's another reason why I want Peyton on here today, is because you've been through some challenges, and I want to talk to you about those challenges. Whatever you feel free. This is an open show. Whatever This is a book. Whatever you want to share, share. But for those of you that are moms, I want you to listen closely too. Krista, we could do this with Krista here, but I'm going to get her on too. But tell me about, you went to school, and then what was your journey after that?
So I didn't really know what I wanted to do after high school. I have at 32 realized that I didn't know what my paths were outside of sports, just because that's what my parents played in high school, and it worked for them and it worked for Sean. So we just kind of like stuck around that, and I kind of needed some time to find myself. I tried college for a semester or two, and I just never really got into it. And I decided to drop out, and I did a lot of moving back and forth, Texas, back home to Florida, back to Texas. Um, got into my first relationship, and whenever it ended poorly, that's whenever Sean was going off to Marshall, and my parents had already rented a furnished apartment for them to come visit and stay at instead of having to rent a hotel room every time that they
Right.
went up there for a football game. So they have always offered to put a roof over our head if we were in school. And so they offered for me to go live in that apartment and I could pursue schooling because at this point I was already in medical assisting school and knew I wanted to go into nursing.
Right.
So I took them up on the offer. You'd be silly not to.
Right.
And I went to school in Huntington, West Virginia. I got my associate's degree in nursing through St. Mary's, and I worked there for at that hospital after I graduated for almost 2 years. So,
No, and so as Peyton was saying, so she went to school and took it, when we can as parents give that option for, schooling and then the kids take this up. It's such a great blessing to have that because we know that there's many out there in the world that don't have that opportunity. So to take that opportunity to do that is really powerful. And so Peyton went off, you graduated and you went into travel nursing, right? You became travel nursing. And we were talking the other day in the car. So I'm actually here in Texas. So a funny story, why am I here in Texas is because Peyton and I pulled off surprising her mom.
Yeah.
I have not seen her mom, Krista, in almost 9 years. We figured 7 to 9 years it was. And you can't pull anything over Krista. She's like me. I'll sniff it out if you're trying to do something. And you'll see on my social media, if you go follow me, you'll see all the fun ways we surprise her and some other videos that we did today. In fact, we made her stretch her comfort zone and do some videos with us today. But so we were able to surprise her. But I got to spend some time with Peyton and she was telling me some funny stories around nursing. We were talking about funny stories. And I do want you to share because this is Soulful Self-Care. So you need self-care no matter what's happening in your world. And so this is a funny story, you guys, that Peyton shared with me. She was talking about her first time going in to, do you know where I'm going, right?
Oh, I do.
She was talking about her first time. She had to go in into a room, and this gentleman's blood pressure was like something was happening with the blood pressure.
Heart rate.
His heart rate.
Yeah.
So tell us what happened.
So it's actually like my second day of clinical. It's my first semester of nursing school. Second time I've ever walked in hospital doors. I'm still learning my footing for like bedside manner and just really nervous, right? And my patient is going to go down for a cardiac cath, which is whenever they basically like, what is it? Whenever they chimney sweep.
Yeah.
It's basically like doing that to your heart arteries because they're clogged up. So he's about to go for this procedure within the hour or two, but I'm getting ready to leave, and his heart rate is like in the 140s, 160s. So my nurse that I'm working with is like, "Will you go check on him?" I'm like, "Sure." And I've been told the hospital, this is your patient, your room. So like knock for courtesy, but just walk right in.
Right.
And I knock for courtesy, I walk right in, and the wife shucks some sheets up over him, and I walk into a tent. The tent was pitched.
So your sexual desire self-care never ends, evidently, is what we learned from that. So,
correct.
And like Peyton said, that was her second day, right? It was your second day.
I'm a student.
And what did the nurse say when you went out? What
I went and told my clinical instructor that I just walked in on my patient receiving some self-care from his wife. And she goes, "Ooh, on your second day, welcome to nursing."
And I just laughed because I thought, I've never had it. I've known a few friends that are nurses, but we've never talked about some of those stories. And I just thought that was funny. And so just chuckled at that. So Peyton, your journey kind of turned not too long, maybe a year or so after that, because you went to do travel nursing, right?
Yes, I traveled with my best friend Katie. We went to Nashville, Indianapolis, just outside of Ocean City, Maryland, and then Cape Cod as well. And I was losing myself. I was really angry. I could kind of tell that something was wrong, and I was trying to get help via like the self-help apps and stuff like that. And it was great. I could find someone, but I didn't feel like they were qualified enough, like, to talk to me because they saw LGBTQ and paired me up with a lesbian therapist, but she was like, "I usually work with like teens."
Right.
So I'm like, "Oh, I've I've way over intellectualized past teenagehood. So it just wasn't, I couldn't find somebody that was working out long term, and nobody could provide me with any medication from long distance because I needed a Texas doctor to prescribe me meds,
Right.
but I didn't live in Texas. So I decided to move home after my contract in Cape Cod. I just needed a sabbatical. I really needed some time to focus on me because in healthcare you do lose yourself. You you're in charge of so many lives and you give so much to yourself in that 3 days, and then night shift makes it hard because you're having to flip-flop
Right.
schedules and such. Actually, night shift is a carcinogen.
Oh,
It is a cancer causing
really? I did not know.
habit.
Oh,
Yes,
wow.
yes, night shift is a carcinogen, proven. That'll come into play here in
Yeah,
just a
just, I was gonna
minute.
say, that's the first time
Uh,
we talked about this weekend, so
yeah. And so I moved home and I started trying to like take care of myself. I went to my doctor. I was concerned that my ex-fiance may have given me an STD or an STI. Or maybe I just had some kind of like health issue that I really needed to figure out. So I started taking my money that I've paid out of pocket now to get this testing done because I don't have a job. So I'm paying
No
out of pocket with no
insurance.
insurance.
Right.
Um, and my pap smear came back fine, my lab work all came back fine, and I just noticed that my body still felt like it was breaking down over time. And in May, I had a fall, and I couldn't get up for 3 hours. I had to wait for my brother to come help me up off the ground, and that even took over an hour of him like working me up to like a crawl and then
Mhm.
getting up on the couch, and he ended up putting a blanket like around my waist, and I used my upper body to kind of push
Pick
myself
yourself up.
up. And once I got to a certain point, I had to come and help me get up. It took about 3 hours from my initial
Wow.
fall to him actually like getting there to
Right.
me.
Yeah.
So it was almost 4 hours by the time he got me up because it took a process to stand me up straight.
Right.
And then after that, without knowing, what was actually going on with me, which I still will get to.
It's coming.
Um, I went and I moved my belongings from Nashville because I just went ahead and I stored my belongings in Nashville while I was traveling. So I moved myself. I did hire movers, but still I pulled my trailer. I went to Pride in Nashville with my friend.
And all this was after your brother lifted you up?
Yes, this was
Wow.
all post me falling. So like we knew something was really wrong, but we just didn't really know what. So I'm babying it. I got
Right.
steroids. And then we moved down to San Antonio and I started a new job. And it's a clinical cardiology unit. So I'm not in the hospital anymore. And I'm thinking that these heart racing moments that I'm having in the morning are anxiety because I'm starting a new job.
That makes sense.
And my parents start making me take my blood pressure, and it's all anxiety symptoms. So I'm just like, I'm fine. It's just anxiety. It's just
The
anxiety.
nurse talking too.
Yeah. And I just didn't have insurance. I knew something was up.
Right.
And one day we sat down to eat dinner and I took one bite of it and I immediately went to the bathroom and threw it up. And my mom was like, "This is it.
Something's wrong, right?
We're taking you to the ER," because they took my blood pressure and my heart rate right there. And my blood pressure was like 160, 170, over
Wow.
100.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
My heart rate is in the 160s. So we go to the ER, and I knew as soon as I told them that I was also experiencing chest pain. So I knew once I said the three words chest pain, tachycardia for your fast heart rate,
Right.
and high blood pressure, it was going to be a race to like
Oh,
get an EKG on you and stuff. I just know protocol in
Right.
the ER. And I'll be darned, but it took less than 5 minutes for them to get me back, rip my shirt off, and putting the sticky pads on me
Right.
for the EKG. And my mom, I warned her going in, but she still sat there. She's having to fill out my paperwork because I didn't even have enough time to like say I'm Peyton Behrens on the paper. They're like, come on. So she's sitting there trying to fill it out, but also she's like in shock because I'm half naked and they're already like grabbing my labs on me and sticking an IV, and I'm like only been in the room for 3 minutes.
Wow.
So they were like, okay, your blood work came back. You have a high D dimer, and this is a lab that they use to determine like if that's high, they typically think that you have a pulmonary embolism, which is like a blood clot
Right.
in the veins leading to your lungs.
Okay.
And arteries. And so what they do is they do a chest CT with and without contrast,
Gotcha.
and to check the blood flow.
Right.
And whenever they did the chest CT, the ER doctor came in and she's like, "Do you know about a lump in your breast?"
Mm.
And I said, "Yes, I do. I have known about the lump since April, and I've just not had any insurance."
And
I've
this was
been
what
able-
month? That was April.
This was
21st.
September 22nd
So April
of
to
2024.
September. And the key word is she knew she had the lump, but
In
because of the
April.
insurance, didn't go.
Yes.
Yeah.
And she's like, "This doesn't look good." And I was like, "All right." So basically, whenever she left, she just knew that it was cancer.
Right.
And then she waited for the radiology to come back. She printed what the radiologist said, and it said that I have the large left breast lump, and then I also have metastasis to my sternum, my clavicle, my ribs, basically just like any bone in my
Yeah.
chest that imaging got. I have cancer in those bones.
So you're sitting there and you hear this, and
Mhm.
because I know your mom, and I mean, I didn't know for a few days after, because like we talked the other day in the car, it
Mhm.
told you only let certain people know in your circle, and I remember calling your mom because I think I texted your mom and said, "Hey, how you doing?" It was just out of the blue, like we do all the time. Her and I would text each other, and she said, I forget exactly what she said without looking at my phone. I could just tell something was up, and I remember I was in Florida. I was driving. It was around Nate's wedding time, and it was downpouring rain because we're in the middle of like hurricane seasons in our life. And I just remember calling her, and I remember her sitting there and she was just crying. And your mom was there for me when we lost Matthew. Just, I mean, even though it was on the phone, like your mom has been that first person I've called for many things, including when Matthew had a snake at my house one time, which we talked about that this weekend too. But I just sat there, listening to your mom, and I just could just imagine, hearing as a parent your child has cancer, and that it's metastasized, like you said, to your bones and things like that. And so everything's about this, nobody wants to hear the C word, and we always think the worst about the C word as well.
Mhm.
And it's scary and all of that. And how old are you, Peyton?
I was 31 when I found out, but I'm 32 now.
Right.
I'm 10 months into this.
Yeah, 10 months. Yeah.
9 months, 10
And
months in.
while that's going on, we won't share the other story, but another family member of yours was going through some stuff as well. So
Mhm.
your mom was, and so your mom's trying to balance all of this and like navigate, like, what am I going to do for my daughter, and, all of that stuff. And so you're hearing this. And I think I remember I can't remember exactly, so walk us through. I'll try to see if I can pick your brain if you remember this. But I remember over the weekend, we were talking about how your mom, you went kind of in nurse mode for your mom,
Mhm.
because the nurse came in, and I remember your mom, and and it's a question that any mom would say is like, could they be wrong? Like, do you sure you got the test right? Like, you're questioning, like, is there anything else? Like, is it the heart? Can we just fix the heart?
Yeah.
You're thinking about all these other things. And I remember you saying that the nurse looked at your mom and said, it's not wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My mom was basically just like, "Is there any chance this isn't right? You only did one test. It's only one image. You're 100% sure." And I mean, as a nurse, you just know. As a
Right.
healthcare worker, you know.
Right.
This is somebody in front of you that's in denial and just got really awful news about their child. We did kind of get like the hammer, nobody does want to hear the C word, and then you hear C word stage 4,
Right.
incurable.
Right.
So it's like the double whammy.
Right.
But I will say, my oncologist is probably a huge reason why I have the attitude that I do, because he's really been wonderful. And he walked in the day of the next morning at 6 o'clock. I didn't sleep.
Right.
I didn't sleep.
Right.
So he walks in at 6 o'clock in the morning, and unfortunately my parents weren't there yet. They didn't know that he's been around so early.
Those
But I
daggone doctors,
felt
they always do that to the family members. They come in so early. Could you stop that, please?
and he just was very comforting and was like, this is the reality of it, and I want you to know that there's a lot of options out there. Like, we need to see what your biopsy says, basically, to see
Mhm.
what type of cancer, meaning they know that it's stage 4 because it's metastasized, but
Right.
what my cancer is hormone positive, HER2 low / negative.
Okay.
So my cancer is fed by estrogen and progesterone. And what I'm kind of gathering from being friends with people in the breast cancer community is that HER2 positive, if
Right.
that's positive, it's a much more difficult, tedious type to
Gotcha.
treat.
Gotcha.
So
I remember also, go back to the nurse for a second. You
yeah.
put your nursing hat on. I remember what you said to your mom
Oh yeah.
about that nurse and how, what
Oh,
she said,
she'll never forget that.
she'll never forget that nurse. She'll never forget that moment with your mom. And
She'll never.
yeah, and I believe that because I remember like when we were sharing a story as well. I remember like I shared just to make it really short, like when my mother-in-law passed away and she was supposed to come home that day and everything was great and the doctors were so excited she's come home, the nurses, the social workers, everybody. And then all of a sudden that morning we got this phone call that you need to get here right away. She's taking a turn for worse. And to see all those nurses, and there was a young nurse too. He was like newly, I think he was about 2 years into his nursing, and to see all them like in the shock of like, I can't believe this lady was going to go home and now we're not sending her home and she's going to go off to heaven, and like that compassion and everything, they were crying. It was like, and when you said that about that, telling your mom about that nurse, there are, those nurses, you guys work hard, right? You work really hard. And I watched Peyton's still nursing because like she gets on her grandfather the other day on the phone. She's still nursing on her grandfather.
Yes,
She's
I'm
nursing on her
medically
brother.
retired,
Yeah.
but I do keep my license active, and
Yeah,
I
in
keep
fact,
everybody in check.
yeah, because we went to San Antonio the night. As a matter of fact, there was a lady there, she got dehydrated, and Peyton right away went right over. Somebody's getting water. Her mom's running over getting the local police or whatever they were, and then here goes Peyton's like, getting a fan and trying to get her
With
started.
my little walker.
Yeah, she's got a walker and everything. So it's so Peyton, we're talking about this. We're making some fun stuff. This is serious stuff that you
Yeah.
went through. And so tell everybody, because I know I was talking with you this morning about, sometimes when I coach my clients and go through these stages of being angry about things that are happening in their life and everything.
Mhm.
So walk us through it. You hear this news and you come home and life is different,
Life is so different.
And I mean, talk us through some of the stages you went through, because it's sort of like, like your grief, like with grief, you grieve different areas of your life when you get certain news, right? So
Right.
how did that, like, you and I talked a little bit in the car too when you picked me up about the grief stages, and there's some areas you haven't gone through that stage with it yet.
Right.
But how did you work? Because you guys, I've been with Peyton all weekend. She's great. She reminds me of when I saw her, at high school and all. And so she has a great attitude. But I know it wasn't always like that for you when you got the news.
No. I tried very hard to stay like in reality, but whenever I first got the news, it took 2.5 weeks
Mhm.
probably after being out of the hospital to really realize like, oh, my cancer will kill me one day. Like
Right.
for that, like my brain was protecting me. It was like waiting for the right time for me to know whenever it clicked. And I was at one of my follow-ups. I think it might have been my first real treatment day. And I was looking at my doctor and I was like talking about cures and this and that, and he never changed his wording. It just clicked this time. He
Right.
never changed how he ever worded the news to me.
Right.
It just clicked, and I started crying, and my poor father was the one that took me to my first treatment. And I looked at him, and
her dad's a big teddy bear too.
he is. I looked at him waiting to get my first treatment, and I can see all the cancer patients on their chemo, and I look up at the bell, and I look over at him, and I'm like, I'm never gonna get to ring it.
Mm, right,
That was a big realization.
right,
So it'd be like my treatment will never end.
right.
Um, so I came home that day and I probably spent like 2 to 3 weeks just really like mourning my life.
Mhm.
Being scared of death. Like the all the inevitable things
Right,
were big, scary, and they were gonna happen tomorrow,
right,
like I thought I was gonna die tomorrow. And I'm
right.
like, I have this, that, and the other that I still wanna do, and like I haven't fallen in like true love and like this, that, and the other. So I'm like, what the heck? I'm mourning it. I'm like, I need to write down love letters to my friends and family and like write
Yes.
letters to my brother's kids that he might have one
Oh,
day.
right,
Like these are the things that I'm like, I'm gonna miss out on. I started thinking about all the things I was gonna miss out on.
right.
I would cry to my mom. My very best friend has lost both of her parents, one of them to cancer, and now I have terminal cancer. And not terminal, chronic is probably a better word because I'm not like I would say terminal whenever I get closer to
Right,
death,
right.
but it's an easier way to explain it to people. But now her best friend has chronic cancer, and I'm like, I think that like Katie was placed in our lives because she was gonna need family because hers wasn't that great, and then aren't there anymore, and that they placed Katie in your life because you knew you were gonna need a daughter. We're having like very
Right,
deep,
the
sad,
conversations, right.
sad conversations, and then one day I just started like trying to change the mindset. I was like, I can't live in this like what if, what if, what if, what
Right,
if state
right.
constantly. I was like, we need to like start switching up the mindset. I had already reached out about getting a therapist and they give me a cancer informed therapist.
Awesome.
Her name is Karen. She's wonderful.
That's great.
And I started seeing her every week and she really helped me. If I also went to therapy early on in 2024 out of pocket.
Okay.
If I had not done that previous work on my shame wound, I would not have handled this as well as I have either.
And I want to say something there. I think that's really powerful you bring it up because we talk all the time on the show here about asking for help, getting help, that you don't have to walk the journeys and the stages we go through our lives
Mhm.
by themselves. I mean, same thing like with me, you're talking about grief. Like it's your grief is a different kind of grief than I grieved with the loss of Matthew, but
Mhm.
we go through these stages and you shouldn't and you're not expected to do it on your own. You like get help,
Right.
reach out for therapy, reach out for
Yes.
coach. And if while we're on that, like if you're watching us down below, if you're watching on YouTube, you can just make a comment, subscribe down below and watch, click the link that's going across. Or you can also just, DM me at Pearl Chiarenza on all the social media platforms because that's one of the reasons why we're also talking about this today is to get that help. And
Mhm.
and one of the things I think is so powerful that you also talked about, going through the grief and then doing the work with the therapist and working on the mindset. Mindset is so important,
Yes.
especially for some of you who's in this chronic stage of cancer. Like you want to that mindset because you could live like just like somebody who's grieving the loss of a child. We could live and sit in our bed all day long and grieve the life Peyton is, her life and how it's might have been, and I could grieve the fact that I just don't have a child here.
Yeah.
But life is still going on in front of us. Like there are still people that we love that are around us. There's people who care about us. There's people we care about. So life still goes on. And you said something this weekend. It's really, carrying home with me as I leave after this show today is that it really like, as you said, as crazy as it sounds, and I'm not gonna say the exact wording, but like it really helped you like find your purpose almost like,
Yeah,
right?
yeah. I tend to tell people that my lows have been really, really low, but I've never truly been like happier since I've been told that I have stage 4 cancer. And I know that kind of sounds a little crazy, but you truly like gain a perspective on life that even though you know that you're gonna die, I feel like it's so taboo. I
Mhm.
feel like Western world doesn't really like to talk about death because it
Right.
makes them uncomfortable, but I feel like the more that we do talk about death and coming to terms with things and how we handle grief and death as living people, the less scary that death could be.
Yeah.
I am a firm believer in, like, it'll kind of feel like coming home.
Yeah.
Uh, I don't know, but I do, like, I just have I've gained a really beautiful perspective on what's actually truly important in life, and just, like, remembering that we're all human.
Right.
We are all living this life for the
And
first time.
right, we're all exactly, and like I don't have cancer, but I could, and I mean, I'm getting on a plane today, and I want to jinx myself, but something could happen to me on my way home to go back home to Florida. We don't know when our dash is going to end, and I think what we both want you guys watching and listening to us is understand that no matter what life is thrown at you right now, whether it's chronic cancer, or you're grieving the loss of a child, or
Mhm.
you're going through a divorce, or you lost your job, or whatever's happening, you have a health issue, it doesn't have to define you. It becomes part of your story,
Yes.
but it's what you do with that can make a difference. And so that's so powerful for us. And so we have dogs. We have an animal farm here. We have 3 dogs and
Yes.
2 cats,
A spider.
so it's a lot of fun. But so you hear the fun noise in the background. But the other thing that I want to touch on what you said too for a second about like facing the death and the things that are come.
Mhm.
I remember your mom when we were out yesterday together. She talked about what's so funny when he came home last night. You put the music on. So Krista had made a comment about how Peyton, Krista's still like processing all this and everything, and she told me the story about how Peyton, what she was listening to Peyton, you were the Wicked movie about the witch is dead, the witch is dead, and Chris was like, I'm not in a space because I'm okay now, but just when I heard it, I wasn't in a space. And we got home last night, and Peyton comes out and she sits in a chair and she sings it, plays a song from Wicked. And what I find so for me so beautiful about that is that I remember years ago when I started in the world of mortgages, I worked for a company, and that gentleman who ran the company, it was Northridge Mortgage or something, I can't remember. He when I joined the company, he was doing a fundraiser for kids with brain cancer,
Mhm.
and it was $250 a plate. All the employees got to come with one guest, so I went. He had all this different food and everything, and then when he passed, because he had cancer too, he did a mini version of it in our parking lot in our office.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's how I want to go. I mean, I literally have, and Peyton and I talked about this the other day. Everything is on my phone. So for my family that's listening, all my directions are on my telephone. Who's to say what music to play? I want you to dance and everything. In fact, I told Peyton, I said, I think her mom would be the perfect one. So stand behind my casket, and if somebody walks up, play this that maybe I don't talk to anymore, and they decide they're going to show up at my funeral, play the little button and make it say, what are you doing here? I didn't ask you to come here. Or play something that says, are you going to dance today? Stop crying. Just smile at me. Like, I want it to be something like that. And Peyton said, what did you say you wanted to put on your urn?
Something about it being dark in here.
And Chris was like, I just don't know that I'm ready for that. But I say that and I bring that up because death is something we have to talk about.
Yeah.
And if we're so scared to talk about it, and when you're scared to talk about it, that's even more reason why you should talk about it. And I joked to your mom, I'm like, yeah, I have a book at home. It's called I'm the blank out of here. Now the shit show's on you. And it's like everything, like you write all what you want and everything, right? Now I put the shit show on you, but it's so funny and to put that together. But the other thing I want to lead to, because I just look at our times coming, but we're going to talk about this, is community. When we have the Shiro League, you guys, when you're on the show, you've watched me, listen to me. If it's your first time, I create this thing called the Shiro League. So it stands for Strong, Happy, Empower, Radiant, Original Self. I did it during COVID because I found so many women were like, I got to teach my kids. I used to send them to school for that. My spouse and my partner's home all day with me. I like them. I love them, but I don't want to be with them all day long. I called it, I need a Calgon take me away moment, but I can't leave my house. And so I created this 30-day self-care challenge. And every Sunday evening, we would get together and talk about how it went. And at the end of 30 days, it was like, can we still do this? So that became my community that I didn't know when I created during COVID that in 2022, it was going to be the community that helped uplift me during the time that we lost Matthew. And I know just recently you have kind of found your community. You went away to a camp, and so tell everybody, because I really want to promote the community as well here. I want people to tell everybody about the community and tell people how they can find the community.
I think it's important to talk about this because so many people's lives are touched by this, because 1 in 8 people will have breast cancer, but it's also extended to gynecological cancers as well. as people who are testing positive for cancerous genes. It's an app called the Breasties. The Breasties, and they just came out with an article on the Today Show as well. We can link that.
Yep, we'll link that. We'll put the article in there for sure.
And it was wonderful. I really dove in like maybe 2 or 3 months before camp started, but we have a local friend here who is a flatty. That's what we call breast cancer patients or BRCA gene patients who have decided to go with a flat closure mastectomy versus getting implants. And she was like, "You've got to sign Peyton up for Camp Breasties. Like, get her in, find her community. Like, she's gonna need it." And I'm so grateful because those first 3 months were kind of a blur. My mom did a lot of my admin for life for me, and she made sure I was at Camp Breasty.
That's awesome.
And there are monthly meetings depending on whatever like classes you want to join. You don't have to join those meetings at all, even. But it's basically like Facebook for breast cancer and gynecological cancer patients. Previous, current, and past. So survivors and people in remission are there. And it was really, really wonderful. This camp, they had panels for education, they had panels for communication, they had arts and crafts, just like you would at camp. They had activities like archery and sound baths and different like physical activities. I was not into that because my back is literally broken, but I had fun with my crafts and going to my meetings. Like, you meet with your little communities that you meet with on your Zoom calls every month. Your cabin meetings are really fun. You get to bond with your cabin mates.
Kind of like a Girl Scout kind of thing.
It's literally like summer camp for breast cancer and gynecological cancer.
That's awesome. And I think you were mentioning too with them, like there's scholarships and things like that. So if somebody wants to find it, it's on the app.
Yeah. The scholarships open up whenever camp opens up, so that's not usually until the end of February, beginning of March. But you can get on the app and start connecting with your breasties. That's what we call each other. And we tend to, like, whenever I get on there and I see that somebody might be new and they might be from Texas, or we might have something in common, like we're stage 4. I usually shoot them a message and share my like Instagram handle.
Awesome.
It's a little easier to like just communicate, see faces. So you have a face and a name at camp the next year.
That's awesome. So they can find it through the app?
Yeah. You can go to your app store and type in Breasties, and it is a mountain emoji.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
So go there. We'll put the link in the show notes and everything as well. So before we close out the show, and we're going to close it out a little different, you guys, because I did not bring our cards and I don't have we'll do the other closing. I can kind of create it. But so what would you want to say? Like, I talk about this, we're getting ready to go into July. When this releases, it's going to be during the month of July.
Okay.
And during the month of July, actually I take that back. It's going to be the month of August, sorry. But we will have just finished the month of July. And in the month of July, we do what's called Make the Call for Matt. And what that is that's because when Matt passed, for those of you that are new, our son passed 3 years ago at the age of 25. And so when he passed, about a week or two after he passed, we had people show up on our doorstep looking for Matt, calling on my phone. Someone on his phone got hooked to my phone, and they had not known that Matt had passed. And to relive that was hard as a mom and as a dad, to go back and explain what had happened. But the biggest thing we took from that is that all of them said, "Oh, I was going to stop by," or "Oh, I was going to call him. Oh, I meant to apologize for this." And so one of the things that we do in the month of July, it's called Make the Call for Matt. So it's not text, not email somebody, but call somebody that you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe you've had, you've long distance. Maybe there was something that happened. I'm not going to tell you call somebody that's been, somebody you put boundaries on and put a gate on. I'm not saying that.
Definitely.
But I'm saying that person, you're like, gosh, I wish I would call them. I want you to call them because your legacy, we don't know. As Peyton and I are talking here today, we don't know when our dash is going to end. We don't know. So try not to leave anything unturned. Like, I love what Peyton was saying, like she's writing letters to children that her brother's going to have, or writing letters to friends and love letters. who is that person that you want to call and like say that love letter to? I'm going to encourage you that if that person comes to your mind, pick up the phone when you're done listening to the show and call somebody and check on somebody, because your legacy, you don't want anybody to not, you don't want to leave anything unturned. Because I will say, like for Peyton, I'm just going to say this right now for her. One of the things I ask my clients when I coach them is, if tomorrow doesn't come and all I can say is what I saw you do at your funeral, if all I can say at your eulogy is what I saw you do in your life, not who you were, not the titles you wear, not the volunteer you did, not the job you held, but what did you do for yourself? If you can't say 10 different things or people can't come up with that, I want to coach you and help you find your joy. But I feel like with Peyton, I can tell you, like, I can tell you that Peyton's very outgoing, that she has taken this journey she's on, and she's doing so many things with it and so many things to come. And we haven't touched on everything that's happening in her life, including meeting somebody and having this long distance, adventure of a possible relationship, and stepping into not just stepping into, but owning who she is. And that many of us wait till too late in life to do that. And I'm proud of her for doing that. I'm proud of her. Also, I watch her with her mom and dad while, you're going through this chronic cancer. It's heavy on you. I know it's so, no matter what, you're going for therapy and everything, but I watch you navigate taking care of your mom and dad at the same time. Like, you make it easy, not that it's ever going to be easy, but you make it more comfortable for them to have the conversation.
I try.
Yeah,
I
you do
try.
a really good job at that.
I've really worked on my communication skills in the last probably 2 years, 3 years, and like I said, I was too sick to really focus on it. But I try to remind people to be gentle with themselves, and this doesn't really relate to my parents per se, but
Right.
Whenever I'm very big on negative self-talk, and whenever I hear my friends even out loud just joke that they're dumb, your psyche does not know the difference.
It doesn't know the
So
difference.
I make them, I'm like, be nice to my friend, and I make them reword it right
I
there.
love that.
So I
That's
try
so
to do
important.
that whenever my parents they're not doing negative self-talk per se, but I'm like, oh, you could reword that.
I love that.
Just reword that a little,
Yeah.
differently, or do we need to talk about this?
Yeah, I think it's important,
So
like that, and that's one of the things. Like, what is your legacy you want to leave behind? And so I'm going to ask this heavy question to you, Peyton.
Okay.
What is that legacy you want to, with this journey you've been on, and you've been dealt these deck of cards, and what you're doing with it? What's something you want to that you want to leave behind?
I've thought about this.
She didn't know I was going to ask this question.
No, I didn't. I've actually thought about this. My legacy is the love left behind. The only important things is the human experience / life, and the love that we can pour out and not only give, but the love that we learn to receive. Do not be uncomfortable to receive that love.
Right.
I still sit with that sometimes, sometimes we're so hurt from previous things that we want to ball up and we want to guard ourselves. And there's a very fine line between building up a concrete wall and a chain link fence.
Right.
And to just remember that you need to be flexible, and you don't have to guard yourself that deeply. There are people out there that are just willing to cradle that, and be a safe space for you. And it's all about, I don't have the spoons, the energy to pour into a bunch of people and have these deep, close, meaningful relationships with them, but I pour everything I can into the ones that I know I have the energy for.
That's so important.
That's all I've never actually worried since my diagnosis about my legacy, or being forgotten.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah,
No,
I won't be.
She won't. No. She's not gonna be forgotten.
Not to be cocky, I just know I won't be.
No,
forgotten.
And that's what I love about you guys and your family, because within the family unit too, you have that. And for me, you guys have been there through so many different things with me and my family, and and I just, I'm just glad I was glad we were able to surprise your mom, but I was glad I got to hang out with you a little bit more, and have this time and do the podcast. And I feel like all of you should have taken something away, but if nothing else, I think it's just what she just said. The legacy is feel the love, enjoy the love, put it out to the world.
Like that Mosaic quote, at lunch
Oh,
where I said something along the lines of we're really just pieces of
yes.
everybody that we've met along the way.
Yes.
And together we are like our own individual mosaic
Yeah, that's so
of the
true.
different lives that we've been touched by. Like, so
Yeah, that's so true. So create your mosaic and leave your beautiful piece of art behind.
yes.
And so with that, I'm closing the show off quite differently than I do. I'm not going to give you a recap. I think that was just a perfect recap. Is
yeah.
Create your mosaic. But I just want to remind everybody, I'm going to give you an imaginary oyster. So Peyton, with me, put your hands together like this. We come into this world. We are a rough oyster. Our hands and mind and body has got to go through some stuff. But if you can open up your hands inside, you will find your inner.
Why'd it take so long to leave?